Hey, Nancy.
I'm ready?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. I'm glad that you joined me today. I'm Nancy Dekatch, and welcome to the Nancy Dekatch Show. Now, today we don't have a guest physically, but we have someone behind the scenes. John Wilson is our technician behind the whiteboard over here, and he operates all the computer, the Ustreaming. He does all the technical things. And so we had a wonderful conversation about people and their pettiness. And so we decided that we're going to talk about those things in this show. So, John, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. You know, some of the things that we deal with seem to be so unfair by human beings. I know my feelings have been hurt, and other people I know feelings have been hurt. People have called us names, but when I was a young girl, my mom used to always tell me, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. My father used to tell me the same thing, but he says, I don't know if I have any skills to help you if it backfires. And I just thought that was really interesting. But now I look back, and I think that was really one of the wisest things my dad could have told me, because he could not teach me about life. He could not save me from having my feelings hurt. He couldn't save me on the playground. He couldn't do certain things, but it's not that he didn't try. It's just that he couldn't save me. But what he could do is when an occurrence happened and I came home crying, or, something happened, he was there to teach me what he felt the Lord wanted me to know. And as it turned out, I turned out to be a pretty good human being.
I've seen, I agree on that.
Yeah, and there really is something to be said. My parents never allowed us to steal or lie or be disrespectful to our elders. Things we don't even talk about that anymore, John, do we? We never talk about respect your elders.
Well, I think nowadays if you have to do that, you're going to have to text your kids that, because they don't want to talk to you. Do you ever see that all of a sudden they're sitting beside each other across the room and they're texting each other instead of talking to each other? I know.
So, very distant.
Yeah, it's like so it is an issue, but I mean the point is that I think that's basically you do have to teach kids, and I worked in probation cases where people were telling me, and I was like 17, 18 years old when I started, so I was a lot younger than a lot of the parents, and they're saying, well, this one guy told me about his grandson, and he said, kids don't have to be taught; they're born with a sense of right and wrong. I'm looking at him. I was an 18-year-old kid. I'm like, where's this guy get this at? I mean, I at 18 years old, I knew that people have to teach people what right and wrong is. And he had this bizarre notion that's like inbred in people. Yeah. And I went, why is that? Why would he even think that,
Well, kids are not born with an instruction book, and I think that was God's way. I really believe that. I think it was up to us to teach our family members the tradition in your family.
Well, I like what Rush Limbaugh said. And I don't really like a lot what he says, because I stopped listening to him years ago. But he said, I like what he said about kids. He said, basically, kids' heads are full of mush, and it's your job as a parent to shape that mush. And people, deride that, and they think that's a stupid comment. But he makes some sense. I mean, you could fill your kid's head with any kind of bizarre ideas, or any good ideas, or any kind of workable.
Right.
And it's like, I think there's a lot of things that, people are, the notions, and that's why I call them notions they have, are really not working out in reality.
Yeah, I think society has left love out. I think they've got self-love and constant egos, but I don't think that people are teaching other people how to love and how to be compassionate for the weak and the frail. So I think that's missing.
So I got something that most people don't really agree with, but I think that my observation is your idea of self-love. Let's face it. There's a bizarre form, like a perverted form of self-love now. They have this kind of, it just degenerates rapidly into greed and narcissism. Whereas I think actually I think self-love has actually got to be connected, and ironically, you got to be connected to your connection to other people and see your place with them in their life and their place with you in your life. And so basically all this sense of, obligation, and that's basically what love is, a series of obligations. I mean, I don't know what love, it doesn't require obligations, and people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like when I was a kid growing up, I always knew when my parents got older, I was going to have to take care of them.
Right.
But I didn't have that didn't anger me. That didn't feel like I knew that it was going to be there. And it was exasperating. It was tiresome, and it was painful. But I mean, when they passed away, my mom passed away, I knew I was there with my dad to help him take care of her. Yeah. But I mean, basically, I don't understand where an idea of self-love would come from if you didn't examine your relationship with others. And that's, I think, what's lacking in this culture is the lack of introspection, to be look inward. I think that's really seriously lacking.
Yeah. Well, I see it in my own kids. I had all boys, and they have a different philosophy about things. And we'll just talk about Christmas, for instance. Okay, we didn't care what the kids wanted for Christmas. They could have anything they wanted, but they could only have 3 things. And we base that on the fact that Jesus got 3 gifts. So whatever you wanted, you're going to get. It didn't matter. And so now my kids, now they have children, now they want their kids to have everything. And there's no limit. And they're so spoiled. They have so many things. They don't even play with them. And if you ask people what they got for Christmas, they usually tell you 3 things. But I kept it real simple with my kids, and I tried to keep Christmas, not that they didn't know about Santa Claus, they did, but the true meaning of Christmas was the birth of the Lord.
I never understood where gift giving for each other arose from Christmas. I mean, it must have been after... because let's face it, we think that we take our own time frame, what we see going on, is the way everything was done. But I mean, like certain church sects, like I know the Presbyterians didn't celebrate Christmas like the way they looked at the way it was celebrated, say in certain other colonies like Virginia, where the Anglicans and the Catholics or whatever had more of a sway over. Right. They had these Christmas practices, and a lot of them were looked at as papist services, ceremonies, the nativity scene and all that stuff, because their view was too is like if it's not mentioned in the scripture, okay, Jesus' birth was mentioned in scripture, but the things we attach to the celebration of it was certainly contrived, just out of the blue. And where'd that come from? I mean, and I always I
know there's a lot of questions, isn't there?
Yes, because I don't understand where we give this gift giving. I mean.
Yeah, I like Christmas. Don't get me wrong. I love Christmas, but I didn't put a tree up this year. I didn't do anything. We bought gifts, but I mean, I'm just getting to the point where I don't want to be bothered with all that decorating and taking it down and putting it up, and I just don't want to be bothered with it anymore. Well, but the meaning's there.
Right, the meanings are. See, I was as a kid, I never understood. Even as a kid, I didn't believe in Santa Claus, which it caused a major problem because one of the neighbor kids, I told them, Santa represents the spirit of Christmas, and I tried to be diplomatic. I was a kid, but I mean, I was diplomatic, and when her mom heard that I said that, she attacked me. Yeah. And then a few years later, they become Christians, and they were saying Jesus is the reason for the season. I went, I think I kind of told your kid that a few years ago, and he got kind of angry with me.
I could see parents getting upset with you because they wanted their kids to believe, in Santa Claus. I could see that.
Well, see, it never made sense to me. See, I believe in God, which some people say a preposterous statement, and I never could believe in this guy flying around the entire world, dropping off gifts in a matter of, because, and another thing, when I understood time zones, I went, well, how could he do this? Where would he refuel? Where he'd get resupplied with gifts?
It doesn't make sense.
But this doesn't make sense. And then I looked at my house and I saw the chimney went right down to our furnace. It was one of those octopus furnaces. Everybody used to have, like the coal burners that were converted to gas. Gas burners. Right. And I said, well, he's going to get burned up if he comes in here. That thing's really hot, especially in December. So I mean, it didn't make sense to me, and I just couldn't rationally put it together, and so I just reject the idea of it. My mom and dad didn't go around telling me that, but I mean, they didn't emphasize that. We had a little Santa thing my mom stuck out on the, for the display, but it's a cutesy thing. But then I started doing like research, I guess, reading, and went, it's like different. It evolved. Or St. Nicholas, and he gave gifts around. So I guess that's
St. Nicholas is a little different. When we lived in Milwaukee and the kids are raised there, when my oldest son went to kindergarten, he'd come home and say, "Oh, we've got to get our shoes out for St. Nick's night." This is the 4th or 5th of December, and St. Nick's night was where the kids would put their shoes out in front of their bedroom door, and St. Nick would come and put an orange in their shoe because that was a tradition. Well, I didn't know what that was. I mean, we came from Flint, and then we moved to Milwaukee. And so the kids were learning all these traditions. And so now we're back in Michigan, and I'm teaching my grandkids these same things. So I was telling my kids, now make sure that you get the girls' shoes out in the hallway so St. Nick can come. And they were complaining, like, who's St. Nick? So it just depends on the tradition. But St. Nick was truly the Santa Claus. And, it changed, but... it's kind of different being in Flint, Michigan. There really isn't a tradition here. We really don't have a tradition here.
Well, we can, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which actually was a publicity thing for a stunt from Montgomery Ward. Rudolph was actually made up by some guy who was working, I think it was some ad department to Montgomery Ward, and it was like the late 50s, early 60s when that came out. I was born in 63. I always saw, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was part of the true Christian tradition, watching that on TV. But examination, I found out later, was on the History Channel. Basically, it was some ad guy that came up with it.
Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Yeah, and all the other names for Donner and Blitzen. I mean, that actually is probably from some. Those names actually came from some kind of pre-Christian. I don't want to say pagan, but pre-Christian thing. They did. They were Germanic. Don't forget they had different gods and goddesses and stuff. So what they did, a lot of churches did, especially the Catholic Church, basically just said, okay, we're not going to do a full frontal assault, so you can't do this anymore, but we'll Christianize it by adopting and putting a Christian name to it. A lot of the practices.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of
I guess we should do some history on the reindeers, huh?
Well, the other thing is, too, is don't forget, it was the North Pole. But the reindeers are actually a big animal amongst the Lapp, the Lapp people of way up there, and I forget which region it's considered, but Arctic Circle area. And so they tied into it because, you want to perennially, constantly snowy. So those type of the reindeer are the type of animals around there. They can eat the grass that pops up in the tundra or the mosses or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what they tied into it. But it was all, the Rudolph actually was a marketing thing.
Rudolph was the star. He was a star. It wasn't Santa anymore. It was something I used to do with my grandkids is I would I'd write a letter to one of our friends who came to our house every year. He was Santa. But he would always come the first Sunday of the month of December. And I would write a letter to him and tell him all the particulars, and then I'd have the family come over, but I would tell the grandkids, Grandma's friends with Santa, and he's coming down to Flint because Flint is the city where they make automobiles, and he has to get parts for the toys, and so because he's Grandma's friend, he's going to stop by here, and he has a little gift for you, so you can maintain your anxiety and your all that excitement. He wants you to be good, during the whole year, and don't blow it in the month of December. And so the kids really believe that. And so my one granddaughter, she was getting to that stage where she didn't really believe anymore, and she had come over, and he came, and then she went to her other grandmother's Christmas party, and next time I saw her, she says, Grandma, Santa really is real. It's the same one that was at my grandma's party, so it was kind of funny that they had the same one. But I used to play games like that with the kids, but now my grandkids are older, so they've grown out of Santa, but those were fun times. But I kept Christmas simple with them too. I bought them each year. They got a pair of pajamas. I bought them a bed pillow and a new pillowcase, and then Santa brought them a toy, and that was it. And it's been tradition, and then they had all their favorite food, the macaroni and cheese and, all of that stuff. And so that's how they remember Christmas. But I did the same thing with my own kids, so. I
always say, but Santa, I always knew that my parents bought the gifts because my brother, we had an older brother, half brother, and they leave him with us, when they went shopping. So, I mean, it's like, well, if Santa is buying the gifts, I mean, why are my parents going out buying it? And so, my thing is, my parents didn't really want us to believe in a Santa Claus. I mean, they didn't want us, I obviously probably overstepped the line going and telling the neighbor kid that. And my mom, she didn't even chastise me for that. She goes, well, that's her issue. If they can't really deal with that, then that's their problem. But she goes, I don't see where you did anything that drastic or horrible. I mean, I actually think it's more of a delusion to, I think it's more actually potentially damaging for them to get built up on something that actually doesn't go on,
Yeah. My one of my grandsons told me this year that, I think he's 12. And his parents told him last year there was no Santa Claus, there was no Easter Bunny. And he was really disappointed. And I'm like, you're almost 12 years old and you still believe. But he's innocent. He's he's not a sheltered child, but he just really believed that. And he really felt upset about that.
But it's like, my great-grandfather, there was a woman, there was a girl living in the neighborhood. She had a rabbit that had an outdoor hutch. And so my great-grandfather was a prankster, so he took some eggs and he colored them, and he snuck in, he put them underneath the rabbit in the hutch.
Yeah.
That woman is in her 30s, and she still swore around Easter, the rabbits would lay eggs. And she was like, she was in her 30s, and she actually got that. She was dissuaded of that notion. So
that's
I thought it was kind of funny.
The Cadbury egg came out,
Yeah.
Somebody had the same idea.
Well, those are fertility things. I mean, the rabbit's a fertility symbol as well as the eggs. So, I mean, I can see that. Some people's claim, they try to say that everything Christian was co-opted from pre-Christian religions. And I have an issue with that because I don't think, the basic story behind the resurrection was it is a Christian theme, but I can see where those things are taken from other religions. Yeah, I can see that's very factual.
Yeah, I just think it's funny. We all grew up like that. And it's just kind of funny. Now we're grown up and we have kids and grandkids and great-grandkids all believing the same stuff. It's just kind of funny, what they come up with. But religion, I think, is really important in a person's life. I think it's grounding. I think that we have to look at our life and understand that there is somebody greater than we are. And we have an opportunity to always have a relationship with that higher power, as they call it now, not to offend anyone. But, it's getting almost to be impossible. You're not even supposed to label yourself as a Christian or perhaps a Jew or a Muslim or whatever. That there's somehow... It makes you feel like you should be ashamed of the religion that you are participating in. And I just find that to be really odd. I don't see in America why it would matter, but apparently it does. This is a free land. We should be able to exercise whatever religion that we choose. But that's not the case in society, not in the real world. Anyway.
We have a new form of atheist, and they're so self-assured. They're attacking something they say they don't believe in, but they're attacking it with the vehemence of something that's a real target. Okay, so they're saying, some people say, the reason why they're attacking religion is because they don't want people to be misled and do brutal and horrific deeds in the name of their religion. Okay, stated. But the way they attack something, you attack something like that only if you think there's a possibility for its existence. I mean, I don't believe in unicorns, but I don't go beating up people who have a unicorn on their car. I don't go attack. I mean, I just roll my eyes and say how cliche or that's really kind of kitschy or whatever, but I don't go around and beating it up. And I just think this new brand of atheism, it's like puzzling because it's actually out of the realm of science. Basically, science examines what causes this or causes that. They try to find a cause for this, or they try to see if there's a high degree of this and then a higher degree of that that follows or something like that. Because extreme skepticism says you can't actually prove causation. So basically that's beyond the realm of even science. This new brand of atheism, and it's just basically just rage. And that's the only way I can say it. And it's disingenuous to try to label it as a scientific endeavor. Yeah. It's most people. Okay, if you totally dismiss the idea of God, then look at the physical realm, see what causes cancer, see what causes this thing, see if you can. But you don't even have to address the issue of some kind of deity. Okay, I mean,
but you go somewhere. Your spirit does go somewhere, and I've come to believe that I have a spirit that's just living in my human body. And that when things are not right, my spirit and my flesh are fighting against each other, and the spirit's telling me, get it together, lose weight, eat better, drink water, whatever. I just really believe that the spirit and the body have a relationship, but our will gets in the way sometimes because we want to do what we want.
Well, so the face of it, I mean, it's like even people who are atheists or even who are Buddhism teaches basically it is you. It doesn't even try to define a deity. Basically, it's a practical atheistic religion. It doesn't address the idea of a deity. It doesn't totally denounce it, but doesn't address it. It's not in the mix. But if you look at it, it still addresses that you do something and you're motivated doing something and you follow yourself doing the stuff, even though you think that your will or what your mind is saying you want to do other. You want to do something other than that. Paul addresses that, St. Paul addresses that. I want to do this, but I actually end up doing that. And he's dismayed by this. Why is this, there's this like a polarity of wills or our desires doesn't meet what we say on one hand and what our actual actions are indicating. So why is that?
I don't know, but no one, there's some people that claim they've passed away and come back, but really no one's been able to come back and truly describe certain things about what the afterlife is. But I know we go somewhere. I don't believe that you just come to this earth and you do what you want and you have your way and then all of a sudden you die and you go poof. I don't believe that. I believe there's something to answer to when you cross over to the other side.
Well, see, that's where science can't even answer even address, because basically when the life leaves the body, and that's something we can actually.
Your spirit leaves the body.
Well, when the body's no longer has the life in it, they can see that there's a change automatically in the body.
Absolutely.
And so so, and another thing, some people used to claim that the soul would weigh a certain amount, like half of an ounce or whatever. You could see that missing now in the human body. And then some people say that was because, but the body does start to break down immediately.
Absolutely.
It's return for the cycle to go back to the earth it comes from.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was really kind of almost like a recognition of a scientific principle there when it says ashes, ashes, dust to dust,
right.
or when the Bible in the New Testament, in the Old Testament talks about God formed man out of earth and stuff like that. Well, there's probably recognition that the human body will break down to the elements.
Well, and it does. It does disappear. It does. We're just real small. Maybe when we pass away, our body is no more than maybe a cup of ashes. That's it.
No,
a cup of ashes. And Joe, my husband, I have his ashes at home, and it's probably like 2.5 cups of ashes.
Yeah,
and he was 6'4". He's a big guy.
It's like what they say, break down the human body.
Exactly.
The chemicals are worth maybe a couple of dollars by today's inflation. Just about $2 or $3 worth of chemicals.
Well, and talking about that, when Joe was alive, he had the mechanical heart, so he was hooked up to electricity, and the machine kept him alive. And when he passed away, his soul disappeared. His soul was not in his body anymore, but his body was alive because that mechanical heart kept him alive. He was warm. The mechanical heart, the impeller still spun. Everything about him, his blood was through his body. His body was alive, because he had a heart that kept circulating that blood. But it was the machine that did it. If he didn't have that machine, then he would have died like anybody else. And that's when I realized that, death in itself is truly a miracle, because you can't cause yourself not to take a breath. You just breathe automatically. Our bodies are so magnificent that we don't worry about breathing. We don't worry about our heart beating. It all takes care of itself. And, that was one of the greatest takeaways I had when Joe passed away, was that I realized that death in itself is a miracle. It truly is. And just when you're born, you're in the womb, you're not breathing air, but as soon as you come out of the womb, you're breathing air. And that gave you life.
Well, see, my view of this, and I don't hope it doesn't sound over hokey, but people say they don't believe in miracles. But if you actually look at, in my opinion, all the things that can go awry in the formation of in the womb of a human body being developed there, the fetus, and if you look at the conditions necessary for our survival on a day-to-day basis, one thing has to be off slightly, and life will be diminished, or gone. Yeah. So it's a balancing act that's kept going by some kind of force.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we have to. That's why I said it. When somebody passes away, they just don't go poof. They just don't. Something has to happen, and we'll never understand that. And maybe it's not for us to understand. But while we're on this earth, we have a purpose, and we need to do that and figure it out and do what's right. And, and that's kind of hard in this goofy world that we live in. What is right?
Well, see, I'll tell you something you said about, we don't will ourselves to breathe. We're breathing, and we're not even, it's not something, it's a conscious act. I think that's what you meant. Well, it's like basically, we're so oblivious to so much of our own lives. Like finding our purpose. Okay, people drift through life and they don't know what their purpose is. And sometimes, I personally never had an overarching purpose in life, other than there are certain things I didn't want to be. So that's like I use the process of, I don't want to be this, so I'm self-negating. I wouldn't want to be this or this or this, but I'll aim for this. But basically, it just goes to show you that we're so oblivious, and I'm including myself in this, we're so oblivious to maybe the signs or the warnings around us, or the kind of indications that we're so caught up with the minutiae of life that we don't see those.
Right, and it's just like the water flowing. It flows from one part of the earth to the other, and we can't stop that flow. Not at all. There's nothing we can do that. We can't do anything to make the sun come up. We can't do anything to make the sun go down. And it's just, to me, a mystery. And we'll never understand it. But it sure is beautiful. We just had, last year we had the red moon. I missed it. I couldn't see it, because we have all those trees, because we live in the woods. We had all those trees, but I missed it. But everybody else saw it, and they just thought it was just awesome.
We were oblivious.
Exactly.
Well, one summer I did actually see we had what they call the falling stars, right? And it was basically it's this asteroid belt and stuff like, which for some reason the position we get to see that at a certain time of the year, like in August. And there's two of them. The one happens in the winter. We get to see it here more in the summer. And I never paid attention to that for some reason. And then somebody mentioned on television or it was on Facebook. So I was out letting my dog out in the middle of the night because she wanted to go out. And I looked at the stars and I saw 6 falling stars within a matter of 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like and I was like, why didn't I pay attention to this before?
I know. Somebody who said that, they asked me if I knew where the North Star was, and I thought the North Star was the brightest star in the sky. And I found out that it really wasn't. But it's hard to look at the sky and understand what all these stars are and all these shapes, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, and some of those other ones. I still don't know them. I know the dippers, but I don't know the other stuff. But those stars mean something.
There's a globe, by the way, they all sell on Amazon. It's a small little, it looks like a globe, for like the Earth, but it's actually got the constellations, and they got where you'll be seeing them. You can actually get a book and to show you where you'll be seeing them at, and when you're according to your location. Mm-hmm. In the world at a certain time of the year.
Yeah.
So it's like they're like $20. So I mean,
it's
not a bad price.
I just think that's fascinating. I think everybody should invest in telescopes. I think every family should have a telescope and start teaching their kids to look at the stars and understand that there's something really greater than we are.
So like a microscope too.
Yeah.
I mean, microscope and a telescope.
Oh, microscope. We have tons of microscopes.
Glasses,
yeah.
Magnifying glasses. Because I mean, there's a fascinating. I mean, it's like the famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright said once. He said,
right.
the longer you live, the greater the more beautiful he found life.
Yeah.
And there is a beauty to life that we live in Flint, and we got this water problem going on. Yeah. I don't want to bring that up, but we see all this stuff, and we see the day operations. It's kind of gritty living here. But when in the summertime, or even in the winter, I've seen herons land on the river because I live right by the river,
right.
And I see eagles, and I see life actually rebounding here in a city that's been abandoned by industry,
right.
And it's an end of an era, and there's some bad things that came out, terrible things that came out with the loss of the jobs and loss of prosperity. Yeah. But now I just say basically life goes on. I see these animals coming back. I see foxes. I see there's coyotes coming around here.
The coyotes, and those are all, and everybody wants to shoot them. And they are kind of dangerous. But, we've had a couple. We had a mother and a baby cross our driveway, and the dogs were going crazy. They just wanted to chase them and stuff. But there's just something about when the nature like that comes back. But they have an ecosystem. So you might have one year where you have, like at our house anyway, one year we have a lot of snakes because there's a lot of mice. And they get to eat the mice, and then the snakes will disappear, and then we have a lot of mice again. And they just have this ecosystem. And then sometimes we'll get a lot of turtles if we have salamanders on the property or worms. All that works together for good because they all have something to contribute to the ecosystem. And we humans just take it upon ourselves to be fearful and shoot these things or kill them somehow and then claim them as our trophies. And they really shouldn't be killed. They should be studied, and people should have an understanding about their purpose because they're really signs to help us. Just like the wolves are coming back.
Yep.
And that's really great. But we had the oil spill a few years ago in the ocean. There were 3,000 sea lives that died that'll never come back, and they don't even know all of what was taken. But our sea life also has a very important message to share with us about what's going on in our world. And we're really polluting our waters, we're polluting our air. I mean, we're beyond saving ourselves. And I don't think there's anything we can do. We've got this global warming going on. Just take this winter, for instance. We're in February, and we really haven't had a cold spell yet. Yeah, we haven't had much snow.
See, this all ties to being a caregiver. I mean, this is being a caregiver
absolutely.
Because we do impact on the world around us, even though we think it's such a grand thing, and we don't. We're just insignificant, and we are. Let's face it. The world has spin around without us.
It's going to survive without whether we're here or not,
right?
Because that's the way it was made. But the animals. I don't know if they have a conscience or not. They just
actually, I think they do. I think certain animals, especially ones that have been associated with us, domesticated like cats and dogs, especially dogs. I mean, dogs got a personality a lot like being human. We belong to packs, so we don't want to admit that. Oh,
definitely.
And dogs have that capability, too. I mean, and let's face it, they tie themselves to us because basically we're an extension of a pack. We're the pack
and they think they have to take care of us. They're that intelligent. We can't understand them, but they can understand us.
They can understand understand it's still great. I mean, and even scientific research has shown that they've actually been associated with humans longer than they originally had thought. And also they're aware they're aware of like subtleties in our bodies and stuff like that we are not aware of. It goes with a lack of awareness.
Yeah.
And because we do get ourselves tied up, we got to go to the doctor, we got to do this, we got to pay our bills, we got to go to this meeting, we got to go, and we get so caught up with that. Dogs, basically, they got a very more primitive rhythm. They adapt to our modern one, but they still have something beats in them that's more tied to being a dog.
I think dogs attach themselves to their owners. Like Gretchen, my German Shepherd. I was not a German Shepherd lover at all. My favorite dog's a Cocker Spaniel. But Gretchen adopted me. And I just thought that was so interesting. And she really protects me. And then we got 2 puppies, and Scout and Peggy, and their little Situs. And they are just adorable. And again, they basically adopted us. And they are the most loving, kind, warm, creatures that are in my life right now. And I just love them. I don't know what my life would be like without those dogs.
See, I grew up with dogs so much. When I was a kid, with my dad's family always were big boxers owners. They had boxers or Dalmatians. And when I was growing up, I remember hearing so many stories about Rosie and Chief, the 2 boxers in the family, that I felt like I knew them. They'd been dead long before I came around, And I seen pictures of them, and I'd heard their stories and the goofy things he did. And those, to me, were just as important, I hate to say it, as the family members that I heard about, who are also gone. And I felt like I knew these animals, even though they were obviously gone before I was born. I mean, they're gone 10, 15 years before I showed up. But I just can't imagine life without a dog. I can't imagine life without animals.
Me either.
I've had rabbits, I've had guinea pigs, I've had tarantulas, I've had lizards, and even those things that some people consider icky. I mean, there is a personality behind it.
And they do.
They have personality.
They really do.
Yeah.
Squirrels crack me up. They're funny.
They're funny.
They're hilarious.
They're manipulators. They're manipulators.
Aren't they?
They are manipulators. I mean, let's face it. There is something we're wired to like babies because they're cute. And let's face it. We have to, like God, whatever evolution, put that in us that we felt attracted to these things because let's face it, they're like little toothless tyrants. Babies are toothless tyrants.
They are funny. The little puppies have been digging up the squirrels' acorns.
Yeah.
And the squirrels will come down the tree and they just yak at them, And then there's a couple squirrels that tease Gretchen, and they'll come down the tree and they'll start yakking at her, and then she'll jump to try to get them, and they'll run off.
Well, there's a playfulness.
They're funny.
There's a playfulness too. I've seen dogs and squirrels have a kind of a basically relationship. They didn't chase them. They didn't try to kill them. We had a dog that the squirrel would come up there and sit right beside her, and then he'd eat his nut, and she'd sit there and look at him. He would eat an acorn or something right in front of her, and she wouldn't go after him. I mean, there was this accepted there. I have a dog right now that we got a lot of feral cats from my house, and she'll sit on the front porch steps with this cat. There's one cat in particular seems to gravitate towards her, and they'll just sit there watch the traffic go by on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't. I don't know if they're talking to each other, but I mean, it's cute to see them together.
They're funny.
They're because I always grew up knowing that dogs and cats didn't always necessarily have to fight.
Yeah, we always had cats and dogs, and my favorite cat breed is Siamese, and those cats are very loyal. They're really a one-person cat, but I like them because they're pretty and they have this great meow, and they're loyal. But I know my last Siamese, his name was Jacques, and he had a personality. He was kind of mean and nasty, but nobody bothered me.
His
name, is Jacques. I mean, it just makes sense. Jacques. My first Siamese was named Charlie, and he was kind of a lap cat, but Jacques, he was different. He'd bring me home little presents, and put them by the door, and he'd hear the car coming, and he was more of an outdoor cat. And he was a purebred, so I was always afraid someone was going to steal him. But I could not keep him inside. I tried really hard to keep him inside, but he was a hunter, and that's what he did. And it was really hurting him by keeping him inside. He needed to be outside. He was so smart. But he'd bring me presents, and he'd take care of me. And, when Joe died, then he was right there comforting me. It's just interesting how they can connect and they can feel what you're feeling. And they do. They know when they can come and comfort you.
Well, I think it's unusual too, because years ago they used to try to keep animals away from people who are sick or in bad health, and now they allow the dogs. Of course they have to go through training and be approved, but the dogs are allowed to go into like nursing homes and hospitals because they find a connection. I mean, especially a person who I couldn't imagine, God forbid, if I ever was going through some prolonged illness, that not being around a dog. Because the first thing I get up in the morning, usually the reason why I'm getting up is my dog's there wanting to go out. And, so basically after my parents died, before they, my mom and dad, I had to put a dog to sleep that I had for 17 years.
Oh, yeah, that's hard.
And before my mom got really bad, they both insisted I get another dog. And I didn't really want it. I was busy taking care of her with my dad, and they insisted. So I found a dog. I found a Corgi, and I love Corgis. So it was a mixed breed, though. And so I bought her. And, I think they knew that they were going. My parents knew they were going to be dying, and they wanted me to have something around.
Yeah.
Because I knew it, because, I'm not married, don't have the kids. And if I hadn't had that dog, I probably would have been very alone.
Yeah, it's hard to say. My dog saved me a few times. I know after Joe passed away, we lived in the city of Flint at that time, and these two kids they broke right into my house. I was in my kitchen, and they came right into my kitchen, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And they had this fake piece of paper, and they said they were there to collect money. Well, I knew better, but Jacques was there. I didn't have a dog at the time because he had passed away of cancer, and we had him put down. But, I think that cat would have probably attacked that kid, but the kid ended up leaving, and then they were arrested and, all that kind of stuff. But, still, you need to have a dog because you just can't trust society.
Well, they are they're the best thing. Experts in security will say get a dog. But the Siamese cat, the story that my mom told me while I was a kid, because we had Siamese, they used to breed them. My family did. We had Blue Point or whatever they call them, Seal Point or whatever. And they're beautiful cats.
Oh, gorgeous.
And they actually, I guess in Siam, which is now called Thailand, they were actually the royal cats. They were actually, you couldn't even own them if you weren't part of the royal family. And they used to sit on shelves they actually were protectors of the royal families.
Right.
They were considered protectors of the royal family.
That's really true because back, I think it was in Bermuda, I want to say, there was these, they didn't have, bathtubs and things like that, but they had these bodies of water where the women would go and bathe. And so they built these stone walls around this bath pond. And so this one princess would go and bathe, and there were always peekers. These men would come and try to peek at her or climb the wall or whatever. And she found these cats, these Siamese cats, and she got them, and they would walk across the top of that stone wall. And she would always know if there was a peeker coming because the cats would sound off because they had such a unique meow, and their tails would kink at the end. They would be like an antenna, and just a little tip would just turn. And that's how, they knew that there was somebody coming or someone was nearby. And so I thought that was kind of fascinating. They're a very smart cat, and they have a very unique kind of a sound, and it's almost alarming to a point. And you can understand their meows. They're different tones, but they actually were guard cats. And another cat that I really like is the Savannah cat, which is a domestic leopard from Africa, and a Bengal cat. And they breed them together, and they're probably 4 feet high, maybe.
Wow!
And they're beautiful. They can be trained, but they need a place to roam. They need a place to run because they're predators. They're going to kill, and they need places to climb. But they're beautiful cats. They're like $2,000, $3,000, maybe $4,000 to buy one.
I know,
gorgeous.
I know a lot of people probably screaming bloody murder because they're mixing. They don't like hybrids. Animals of two combined species that make a new one basically because, basically it destroys the bloodline of the the both of them animals. But I never heard of those. Savannah cats.
Beautiful. If I would have probably had one, before now, but. Now I'm getting to the point where I don't want to be bothered with it. I have my dogs, and I'm happy with that. And then if I travel, I have to find some place to put them,
See, dogs, I can understand more than cats. Cats are like, I like an animal that's happy to see me. Most of the times cats are like, oh, you're here, okay.
Good morning, and they lick you on the face.
I love cats. I'm allergic to them, but I can see that. I can see where people say, like, basically, with a cat, you feel like you're working for them. You're there for them.
They definitely have attitudes.
Yeah.
They're not going to get around that.
The dogs are saying, can I do something, please? The cat's saying,
Yeah,
okay, leave.
really?
That'd be the best thing. Be the best thing for you is just to get out of here. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a mouse and
I'll come around you when I'm ready for you. But get out of here. I mean, the cats are indifferent. I mean, but they can be loving too, I guess. But I mean, they basically. They don't need humans as much as dogs do. I mean,
they sleep a lot and they shed a lot. And
well, like what George Carlin said about dogs is like, what do dogs do on their day off? They can't sleep. That's their job. I mean, 18 hours a day.
Oh, my German Shepherd. She's really harmless, really truly harmless, but she is vicious looking. And if someone comes to the door, oh my gosh, you think she's going to go right through the wall. Yeah. She's just that way. But as soon as she smells you, she calms right down. But there's something, I think, about the sound of the vehicles and something, when the UPS truck comes or something, there's this sound that comes from that vehicle that she doesn't like, and she likes to charge at it, I don't think it's the person necessarily, it's just the vehicle and the way it sounds. But you know what, John? We've spent like 40 minutes talking about just nothing.
Right.
And I don't know if we're going to have anybody paying attention or wanting to tune in, but I've had a great time.
I do too. And another thing is, I think basically they could come away with the idea that maybe pets would be a good thing to have if you're a caregiver.
You definitely need a cat or a dog.
And stress reliever, and also the connecting. Let's face it, the person who is ill, who they're dealing with. I mean, an illness. They might be comforted by it. I mean, it's a good thing. Some people obviously can't have them because of allergies, or maybe they live in an area, in a building that won't allow it. But I mean, I definitely would say encourage them to go get somebody visit maybe, or go to a place where they can actually be around animals.
And before we go, I'm going to talk a little bit about adopted pets. Now, we tried to adopt a dog from 3 different places. And one place wanted a background check. They wanted my license plate. They wanted all this information. They almost made it impossible for me to buy a rescue dog. And then I had to do this, and they had to make sure if we had other animals, they had to come in, and our dogs had to mingle with this new dog that we were going to adopt. And I just got irritated, but it was that way for all 3 shelters that we went to. And finally I said, you can have it. I'm done. I'm not supporting you guys anymore. I'll just go get puppies and we can do what we want, because we don't abuse our animals. We live in the middle of the woods. We do have coyotes. We have deer. We have all kinds of stuff out there. But, we're not going to let anything happen to our animals. We watch them. It's just crazy. And so, these animal groups out there, I think they're getting a little radical, because I think they make it impossible to adopt a dog or a cat.
I had a friend.
I just can't get it.
I have a friend who lives in New York, and she works a lot. She's a vegan. She's very much into animal rights and stuff, and animal, very... I mean, to me, it's almost over the top, because I'm a meat eater still. I mean, I love animals, but I also think someone tastes good in a dish, But anyway, she doesn't have. But she even got so she just got so dismayed by the fact that they're going through such rigor that she actually started another adoption agency for people, just to make it easier for people. She goes, I can imagine going to see if they make sure they don't have a record for abuse of the animals or people or whatever. Right. I can understand she goes, I love animals, but some of these people, the requirements are just so bizarre. I mean, they're demanding you have to have so much space for each animal and stuff. And okay, if you don't have a big house, if you got a bigger yard, or if you walk the dog, they don't need the big yard. Right. If you're going to be taking on yourself, I mean, I got a nice sized yard, but my dog goes for anywhere, and she's 13 years old almost, and she goes anywhere from 2 to 5 miles a day. Right. And she's a corgi, and they're an active breed. Corgi and Sheltie, they're both active breeds, and she's she gets a workout every day.
Mine too.
She gets roughhoused with and played with and ball thrown for her and stuff. So.
I just think it's crazy, we have 60 acres. There's nothing out there where we're at. Nothing can hurt them.
Right.
But these animal people want us to have a fenced-in yard because we have coyotes, and, I'm like, that's it. Keep your dogs. We're just going to go buy them.
Coyotes can climb fences. I mean, that's not a surefire thing.
Exactly. I'm not going to put them in a closed kennel. I'm not going to do that. They're not mistreated.
Well, if you keep an eye on them, and you see a coyote approaching, you scare them off, or let's face it, they're fast, but I mean, you keep an eye on your animal.
Gretchen would chase them away, I mean, that's Gretchen's territory.
Well, I guess there's a hybrid out there. It's a coy wolf, or what they call it. It's a combination between a coyote and a wolf, and I guess they're a little bit more aggressive, and their ability to hunt's expanded, because the coyote will hunt in a certain area, a certain habitat, and a wolf or whatever actually in another area, but now they're combined. They actually are more flexible in their hunting habitats so they can go to.
Animals have their territories.
Yeah.
They don't cross each other. And we've got deer out there. Like this year, I take it back last year because we're in 16, but last year we had a herd of deer. There were 3 females that were pregnant, and they were roaming the back of the yard, and they go in their herd, and they were just gorgeous. The next week, we saw baby fawns.
Yeah,
and they were in the back. Now, in the middle of the yard, we've had the red fox run across there, and the deer in the back. It doesn't matter. They just learn to live with each other. They have their space, and all the animals seem to know that.
And let's face it. I mean, I have seen animals that took out small fawns because they were vulnerable. And maybe they were sickly or something like that. Maybe
they're just weak.
But I've seen the other ones. I've seen, and as much as I dislike seeing that, I wouldn't want to see that happen.
No.
But that is nature's way. I mean, that is they have to eat. I mean, those predator animals do have to eat. So it's not something we want to deal with, but that's a simple fact.
It's just the way it is, and they're going to die or they're going to get killed. It's just the way it is. You see all that stuff. When we were kids, we'd watch National Geographic all the time, and these animals would kill one another, mostly your lions and your leopards and your panthers and things. They would stalk and then find a weak animal to go and kill, and they would eat. But snakes do the same thing.
It's like it's
just this is just the way it is. Everybody has to eat. That's the way our bodies were made. But it's nothing wrong with it. It's not. I don't find any pleasant experience watching that.
No.
But I really don't eat meat much anymore. I can't do it. I can eat chicken, but I can't eat beef anymore. It just doesn't agree with me. Plus, I just think it's really unfair that a cow can use 6,000 gallons of water just for a short lifespan, and the rainforest is being cut down to put the cows there, and then they turn around and kill them and then sell the meat. Yeah. And I just think that's so wrong because we're destroying our earth.
It's not efficient use
for money.
It's not efficient use of materials either.
Exactly. We don't need to eat meat. There's nothing nutritious about meat. Nothing. It just fills you up. I agree with that. Everybody loves a hamburger, and you can eat a hamburger and it fills you up.
That's like I think we're let's face it, look at these teeth though. I mean they're made to rip into flesh. I mean the only thing I don't like about the vegan foods and stuff that I've seen is like if you ever look at the labeling, oh my God, all the stuff they add, they're so highly processed.
The chemicals in the food.
So I don't like about that. I mean I don't see how that's healthy. I don't see how that's healthier than eating meat. But and I can understand the humanitarian side of it. I can understand it because the thing is though, what's more humane, going out to the woods with a rifle or a bow and seeing an animal and stalking it and killing it, and they got a chance of escaping you, or raising something like a pet, and one day grabbing it, taking it into an area, putting a sledgehammer to its head, and then slitting its throat. I mean, what's more humane? I mean, that animal thinks that they're your buddy, and then you betray it like that. I mean, that's kind of hard to deal with too. I mean, mentally for me, I mean,
I don't know, you might remember this, but when I was in junior high school, there was a plane crash. I don't know if you remember, it was up in the mountains. There was a plane crash, and I think there were like a few survivors. Yeah. I can't remember, but they ended up eating, the survivors ended up eating the dead people, right?
That was in the Andes, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that. Yeah. And then shortly after that, or I think it was shortly after that, there was this famous, a popular song named Timothy. Do you remember that?
No.
Timothy, where did you go? And it was about that plane crash, and the song was about Timothy disappeared because there was a situation, I don't remember exactly the whole song or anything, but Timothy was the human being that these people ate. And he disappeared, and they made a song. But this is like all in the early 70s, maybe, like 60s, early 70s. But I remember that cannibalism was just the grossest thing. And to even imagine a human eating another human is gross. But then we don't think anything about humans eating cows or horses or dogs or cats or chickens, or we don't have any problem with that. Or deer. We don't have any problem with that at all. Well, but there is a big problem with that.
Well, the thing is, I mean, ethically, though, I look at it this way. I mean, basically, what offends us the most about cannibalism is because we want to maintain a position in the food chain, the dominant position. And so, I mean, that's like, it goes against sensibilities. We don't want to buy the fact that bacteria and mold and, animals could prey upon our bodies just as easily as we do other animals. I mean, we have a hard time buying that. It's kind of our arrogance.
Oh, it is, and it's killing us. Too much animal protein gets in our bloodstream. It causes plaque. It causes a lot of problems. And the problem is people use that animal protein as 99% of their diet, and they don't put vegetables or nuts or fruit or anything like that, or grains into their body. It's usually animal protein, and that's how they get sick, and that's how they get heavy, and it causes a lot of health problems. Cancer. There's a definite link to animal protein and cancer.
Well, I've heard that too, but then also I've heard that there's problems like trying to maintain a good healthy diet without having meat proteins in your diet. You have to you can do it.
You have to have some protein, but protein doesn't always have to come from an animal.
But amino acids, though, I mean, I guess the human body actually will create so much, but there's so much that you got to get from other sources. So, I mean, I've seen, I basically know most I would say just don't make it a heavy flesh diet, but I mean, I think it's occasional, like Chinese cooking, for example. Meat's used as a flavoring or as an addition. Let's face it, you're not getting that much, except for maybe more Americanized versions of Chinese food.
But they're mostly vegetables and very little fruit too. It's mostly vegetables
and
nuts.
very little dairy.
Yeah, very little. The Mediterranean diet is the best diet.
It's like I always kid people. It's like if it wasn't for the wars, the Middle Eastern people live a long time because their diet's probably one of the healthiest.
Oh yeah,
the bulgur wheat, the parsley, which is a great antioxidant. The broccoli, the stuff they use. The olive oil, that's good for you. I mean, the lemon juice they use for the salads and the lemon juice, and I mean that stuff's all good. I mean, it's very healthy. It's very tasty. I mean, that's the problem. I think people want more taste, so they think salt, and they add MSG and the other stuff. The flavor enhancers, and those are bad. I don't think MSG is as bad as some people make it to be. I think some people actually have a sensitivity to it, but that's such a minute part of this society's population.
Well, I think what's really hurting us, it's not just the animal protein, but it's the sugar and the flour, the processed foods.
Right.
The fried foods, terrible for your bodies. But, it's not that people haven't been out there talking about it. It's been going on forever. But now it's really a big deal because of the health laws that, that are changing, all the insurance laws and things like that. And, once you lose your health, you'll never get it back. It'll always be compromised. And people become really unhappy because they can't do what they want to do.
That's my
They can't golf. They can't play baseball. They can't play basketball. They can't bowl.
Then my grandparents told me that they had a business here in Flint. They worked 14 hours a day. Pretty much every day. And they made good money, but then they spent the rest of their life miserable shape, health-wise.
Exactly.
My grandfather died of lung cancer, so did my grandmother. They were it was a very unhealthy era. I mean, fried foods are the dominant things.
Yeah.
People eat steaks. They had a steak place. They drank. My grandfather drank quite heavily. Smoked
alcohol, caffeine,
cigarettes. I mean, cigarettes, cigars. And he paid the price. It took him 5 years to die with lung cancer.
And I think about that too, because my dad, of course, he had one kidney, and then his second kidney deteriorated. My mom, she passed away of emphysema. She was a smoker. My father-in-law passed away from bone cancer. He was a chemical engineer for GM. So he's around all those chemicals. He had cancer. My husband died of heart disease and diabetes, because he was a foodaholic. He loved food. There's always something that's causing these problems. And, it's really sad because we're not doing such a good job when it comes to our kids.
No, we're not.
And it bothers me. And, if you think about it, if everybody stopped going to the fast food restaurants, we would really, bankrupt America. There's so many things, because if everyone stopped drinking milk and ice cream, we could probably shut down Wisconsin. If everyone stopped eating beef, we'd shut down Texas. There's just, certain things. Now, if everybody stopped eating peaches, where would Georgia be? We'd be in trouble. But, all of us have something. And then, us in Michigan, we have the Great Lakes, so we have all that fresh fish. And yet we don't know the difference between a fish farm fish
and
a
wild caught.
a natural raised fish,
Right.
you know, and so, you know, we just don't know. And then the politicians went and passed that law that we don't need to know where our food comes from, the origin of our food.
Well, of course they got paid off well.
And I just can't.
They're not making enough money on us, so they got to take, you know, the outsiders' money so they can have a nice, you know, doggy bag to take back and send to Switzerland,
awful.
you know? Yeah.
Just awful.
Or Cayman Islands, rather.
There's so many of these laws that we won't even know about, but it does affect us, and it's we'll talk about those things in a future show. But anyway, it's almost been an hour. I can't believe what we've just been talking like this. I can't imagine anyone is entertained by this conversation, but we'll take our chances.
Right. So,
but I've had a great time.
So have I.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, John, for being my guest today, even though people can't see you.
Yeah,
they
that's
know
probably
your
better.
voice. Maybe one day we'll get a picture of you. But anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody out there for, if you tuned in today, I just want to say thank you. We have a great time here on the show. We have a great place here at All Points TV. If you ever are interested in having your own TV show, this is the place that you want to come. And the people are just wonderful to work with. And, you know, you just feel like you're just yourself talking to all the viewers out there in the video land and out there on the internet. But John, thank you for allowing me to do my show. It's almost been 4 years that we've been with you.
Yep.
And it's been a great experience, and we always have great guests that come on and share what's the greatest and best thing going on in their life. But for now, we're going to close our show. I'm Nancy Dekatch. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you'll come back again and join us soon. And I hope, John, that you'll be my guest again.
I definitely will.
Yeah, and we'll have some exciting things to share with you next week. But for now, I hope that you will always remember that joy be special in your life, and do your absolute best to be who you are, and don't be swayed by anyone telling you don't have value, because you do. You're in this world at this time for a reason, and you probably are here because it is your time. So with that said, we'll see you next week on the Nancy Dekatch Show.